I looked today. Milani is top 5 in the Mount West in both points and assists since conference play began. How have you seen her grow just from the non-conference to the conference with this kind of different role that she was taking on with the injury to Joe?
I'll tell you that I was very concerned about putting that burden on her because we count on her so much for scoring. And she kind of likes it, you know. I think that she's just a good basketball player. So to have the ball in her hands and have a little more control over what's happening is something she's comfortable with. I think she's still very happy when Joe comes on the floor. I don't think she minds that at all. But I'm just saying she's just a good basketball player. So she'll, wherever she needs to be, whatever she needs to do, she'll do it. And she's savvy enough and skilled enough and mentally tough enough to just deal with whatever that is.
And with Joe, I mean, do you see her playing more minutes? How would you assess the way that you guys have brought her back into the lineup, and where are you going to go moving forward?
Well, it's been very, calculated because of the limited minutes we've been allowed to play her, and and Joe's fine with that because she's trying to ease back into it. I think it's one thing to start off the season coming off of an injury, and you start out with everybody else, and you just sort of plod along and figure things out and all that. But then to jump into the lineup and jump into the game right when conference starts, that's a lot of extra pressure, and so we're trying hard not to put a lot of pressure on her. And she told me the other day, she goes, I'm having fun, and I just want to be able to contribute in any way that I can. And things definitely, when she's on the court, things change for us offensively because she truly is a point guard. And so she thinks that way. She operates that way offensively. I think she's struggling a little bit with trying to catch up defensively. But so we've done all kinds of things. We put her on post players. We put her. Our favorite place to put Joe defensively is wherever she can sneak up on people.
With that second unit, Marissa Hargrave, what do you like about her? I know you talked about that unit as a whole, you liking the way they look in practice, but what about her specifically has allowed her to get on the floor more for you?
She's aggressive, and she doesn't back down, and she's tough. So she likes to mix it up, get in the middle of things, make things happen, and she's pretty fearless. She doesn't a lot of times, particularly young players, but all players worry a little bit about, oh gosh, what if I mess up or what if I do the wrong thing? And she doesn't waste much time in that mindset. She just goes out and plays. She has good basketball IQ, and so she'll do things that really surprise you sometimes. So she's the type of player that sort of brings the energy in the room up. She's just a fun player that has really good leadership capabilities too.
For Nevada, when you guys played them out in Reno, you guys kind of got control of that game late in the first quarter and carried it on, but then they got back into it and made it interesting. Was it just simply the team letting go of the rope, so to speak? Were there adjustments that they made? I'm just curious from what the message is going into this particular matchup with them.
Oh, I think we have to very much remember how they got back into the game. They're probably the team that plays the most pressure defense next to us in the conference, and they're very high up in the steals and turnover categories, just like we are, and that's how they got back in the game. Now that was our first time of really dealing with in conference, of really dealing with a lot of pressure, and we didn't handle it well. I do think we've made some progress since then, and I thought that we showed that in the San Jose State game because they started pressing us pretty much the entire second half, and we handled it pretty well.
Coach, your freshmen on this team have really developed, and they're getting more and more playing time as the season goes along. Did you expect them to develop this quickly when you recruited them?
No, but I don't know. I shouldn't say that. You just don't know until everybody gets out there and starts. I certainly once practice began, we knew those guys were special and they were going to help us, and you could tell that right off the bat. You could tell from the way they handled preseason conditioning. There wasn't a single freshman on this team that struggled with preseason conditioning. Just went out and just crushed it, and so you knew you had that those guys were probably ready to help. And I've been very pleased, certainly, with the progress of all of them. Not just the three that play the most, but they've all made great progress, and they've continued to be outstanding teammates. And just, boy, it's pretty exciting to think that that's the kind of the foundation that we have in those young kids.
Did you expect to dominate the game, the last game that you had, like you did?
No, definitely didn't expect that. But I think when you have, it was one of those cases of we had a good night, they had a bad night, and that's what happens. We definitely shot the ball well, and they were just struggling with our pressure, just really struggling with our pressure. And then, as I said, I thought we handled it pretty darn well once they tried to come back into the game. And San Jose State has outplayed a lot of teams in the second half, so we were pretty nervous going into the locker room, just saying, look, you got to understand, these guys have been in this position before, and they'll come out and they've gotten back into a whole lot of games this year. So the fact that we were able to sort of keep them at bay, that was probably the thing I was most pleased with.